Okay, good morning. Just testing whether everything's going on okay here. I'm totally new to this, so please forgive me. I have no idea what I'm doing. I might certainly know what I'm doing when it comes to being a psychologist or a corporate coach or executive coach, but when it comes to technology, I'm a bit behind the black ball. So welcome. Some of you might have seen I've been running these ads on Zoom and running the same talk, so I thought let me try and at least sort of get onto Facebook and learn how to do Facebook Live and try and extend my experience level so that I can be running this with my Facebook page. So I'd like to welcome you all. Today we're going to be talking about surviving the COVID hurricane, how to go quiet amidst the storm, how to find our centers. So I just want to do, as I said, just do a preliminary post to see how everything rolled out and if everything was streaming okay. I have no idea if it is. It seems like it is going, so I'm not sure where we publish it or how this thing works, but I'm just going to run with it and see how it goes. I'll run it for about 5 or 10 minutes and let's see how things go. So we're going to start with as to why I've called this thing going calm amidst the storm and surviving the COVID hurricane. This talk is certainly not around COVID, but it's around our reactions and our responses and our ability to deal with the adversity that COVID's causing us. So I've chosen also to use two important words in the title, surviving and then hurricane. I've chosen to use surviving, and I want us to move away from surviving into thriving, because surviving allows one really only two responses, maybe three: fight or flight, and then also the freeze response. And then, of course, the hurricane. And COVID is very much like a hurricane. Every time with a hurricane, we have tremendous upheaval, tremendous destruction, a large number of deaths. And also in a hurricane, I want to say the paradoxical beauty of a hurricane is that it brings also tremendous renewal after the hurricane has passed. If we just look at Hurricane Katrina and how much money was brought back into that area to re-establish it and redevelop it and build it up. So I have no doubt that after COVID, things will change. And just another thing, just whenever one goes through a crisis, we never come through a crisis unscathed. We either come through a crisis stronger or we come out weaker. We either come out as being a victim or a survivor. So I've also chosen this hurricane because in a hurricane there are a number of different types of people that respond, or ways of responding to a hurricane. Some people just become zombie-like and freeze and don't know what to do. Others start screaming and just running around in panic. Others become very controlling and control their partners and those around them and try and control what they can control, which is not what they think they can control. And then you've got the others, some might even faint, some might even pass out. And then you've got the others, the helpers, the people that get together, bring communities together, the people that try and share information, try to help others, leaders that emerge through a crisis. So we need both these kind of people, and it's the dual nature of reality that we have these two types in our world, and it's what makes our world interesting. So today's talk, though, is about finding the center of the hurricane. In the center of the hurricane is the eye of the storm. And yes, the winds are tremendous right next to the wall of the eye, but inside the eye, it is peaceful. There is no rain, there is no wind, there are blue skies. And each of us are able to find that center. That center is not outside of us. Many of us will try and reach that center outside of us, but that center is inside of us. So this talk is about going quiet amidst the storm. And I've worked with many different people. It doesn't matter if you're working in the hospital, it doesn't matter if you're on the front lines, it doesn't matter where you are. That center stays with you, and you can be in the middle of a crisis and you can find your center. And the reason why it's so important to find your center is because the more we panic, the more we start freaking out and going into crisis mode, the less we are able to problem solve, and the narrower our band of problem solving becomes. So the calmer we are able to broaden our band of responses and increase the amount of responses that we can have to a crisis. So it's extremely important to remain calm and allow yourself to find your centers. So yeah, I think I've said enough about the introduction here as to what I want to achieve here. So I'm not going to do the whole talk. Well, I'll see how far I go. But as I said, it's a test process, this. So I've got no idea how it's doing. I can see there's some comments coming up. I've got about 3 or 4 screens open on one screen. I don't have multi-screens in front of me. So I can't answer as I go. I see a few people clicking in. Craig Logan, Faye Osner. I see a few people checking in there. So hi, welcome. So I know there's someone out there and I know something's working, but I haven't got a Facebook page open in front of me, so I have no idea. I can just see some of the comments coming up on the side. So welcome everyone. So I really want to welcome you. I also want to just say that it is extremely important to look after yourselves mentally and physically, spiritually and emotionally through this phase, because if we don't build up our coping resources, the stress ends up being over here, whereas if we've got coping resources, the coping resources sit here and the stress sits just underneath it. Okay, so just a few housekeeping messages. Hopefully that the page has changed on your side as well. So I'm not an expert in Facebook. I repeat this, it's my first session. Feel free to leave any comments, ask questions. I'm going to answer them in the break or afterwards. This session, I said 30 to 40 minutes, but since my first session, I think I might shorten that just to check through anything, and then we'll definitely be having more of these. There's going to be a rough agenda, some intro, some lecturettes. I'll try and answer, but I think I'm rather going to leave that answering to afterwards. This is not individual or group coaching. It's not individual or group therapy. It's merely more like a webinar and trying to share the information that I was putting onto Zoom that some people couldn't get to. And again, like I said, we're not here to discuss COVID. We're to discuss our responses to COVID and to the lockdown and to adversity. So just back to that initial slide on the hurricane. What is extremely important, there's three words that spring to mind if we've got to go through this process. It's extremely important to commit to what you want to do. Have a plan, have a schedule, decide what you want to do and commit to it. Then you've got to have courage. I've had to have tremendous courage to learn Zoom in the last week and run 3 Zoom seminars or webinars or lecturettes, and plus today I actually thought of cancelling before it. But one of the most fascinating things of understanding mindfulness and how it works is that I do this with my anxieties, with my fear of judgment, with my fear of looking like an idiot here. But be that as it may, it's the only way we learn. So I learn through our mistakes, so let's see how it goes. And then to have conviction. Once you decide to do it, once you make a decision you want to do it, then to do it. So these three are extremely important to get one through the hurricane, to survive the hurricane. But we don't just want to survive. We need to thrive in the hurricane, and many people do thrive. Survival is not negative. We need to survive, but at the same time, thriving means something totally different. Surviving means stress and suffering and a lot of fear and the panic and everything that goes with it, whereas thriving means having joy, having vitality, having love, having peace in your life, and the ability to then go and, as I said, assist others and help others through the process. And then in order to do this, there are 3 important words that have been flying around my head for the last year or two, and I've been using them quite a lot in my sessions. They are awaken, arise, and ascend. And I really feel it's a big part of what I'm trying to achieve with my clients is that they need to awaken. I feel most of us are asleep, and I say asleep meaning we are not consciously aware of what's happening in our thoughts and our feelings and what's going on in our bodies. So we need to awaken. And then not only awaken, we have to get up and get out of bed, because many of us will go, oh, that sounds great, but still not do anything about it. So we need to awaken. We need to get up and go and do what we've decided to do. This is why I said we have to have commitment and conviction and courage to do what we've made a decision to do. And then ultimately, which is a long way down the line, we need to ascend. And ascending is to move above. So exactly like the hurricane drawing I've used, the idea is to ascend, to move above the hurricane. Now we don't even need to be in our center. From our center, we can actually rise above the hurricane and be out of the wind, out of the noise, up in the blue sky where everything again is calm. The constant blue sky, the permanent blue sky. There's an interesting question that I put out to a few of the groups I've run in the past. And the question is, does a fish know it's in water? This is a rhetorical question, and I've had many interesting answers over the years. One of the answers is, no, a fish is dumb, a fish is stupid. How does a fish know anything? Well, a fish knows when it's out of water. 100% it knows it's out of water. But the question is, does a fish know it's in water? So if a fish is caught on a line and it's sitting there gasping for breath outside the water, it certainly knows it's outside of the water. But inside the water, a fish is born inside the water. So does it know it's in the water? Okay. This is the question we have to ponder. Does a fish know it's in water because it's born in there, it's in its medium, it's never known anything different? So then the next part of this equation or this question, thought-provoking question is, does a fish even know if it's wet? And again, the fish doesn't know that it's wet because it's always been wet. The only time a fish might know it's wet is when it starts becoming dry. So we have to have the opposite. So a dolphin might know it's in water, a whale might know it's in water, a manta ray might know it's in water, because all of these jump out of the water. It's a lovely little slide that says the one fish had been telling his buddy about this whole world on the other side of the sea, And the other one wouldn't believe him until he took him there and they could see that there was a whole world outside of the water. So it's extremely important for us to realize that most of us, until we hear what I'm talking about today, have no idea that there's a world beyond our thoughts, a world beyond our feelings, a world beyond what we're caught up in. And it's a very subjective prison that we find ourselves in, a hugely subjective prison that we find ourselves in our heads. So one of the slides further down the line of this talk is we're going to mention what is it going to take for us to leave our water, our mental water. So for now, a fish doesn't know it's in water, and we are just like fish. We are trapped inside our thoughts and our feelings and our bodies, and we do not understand or even realize that there is a world beyond this. Yeah, these are two great little pictures on either side of a basic mind-body paradigm here that I've put in the middle. This is the mind-body connection. I don't know if you can see my cursor on your screens, but we have thoughts, emotions, physiology, that's what goes on inside our bodies, and then the behavior. So all of these are interconnected, and a change at any level will change either of these areas. Emotions are probably the most difficult to change because they sit quite deep down. The one that most of us find the easiest to change is our physiology. So we will take our medications, we will take drugs, we will drink, we will smoke, we will do whatever it takes, and it will affect you, but it's not going to change it permanently. The simplest way to change this situation permanently is to change our thoughts and our behaviors. This is extremely important to understand, because if, for example, if you thought of a snake, and if you're scared of snakes and you think a snake's going to bite you, you will then become scared. Because you're scared, you're going to want to kill the snake or run away, and because you're scared, your heart's going to race or you're going to get all shaky. So this is basically the mind-body paradigm, and it's extremely important just to understand this as a basic introduction to what I'm about to talk about. This then is called the ABC equation. It's from cognitive behavior therapy, and it speaks to pretty much the basic way we think and respond to any event. So A stands for the activating event, B stands for your belief about that event, and C stands for the consequence. Now, if we just stay with the snake analogy, a snake comes into the room, that's the activating event. Then we have a belief about this event, this snake's going to bite me. Then we have a consequence. When I process this in groups, people often say, when I say, what's the consequence? They say, I'll kill the snake or I run away. That's not the consequence. The consequence is fear. We first have fear, all right? And then guess what? We don't want to feel the fear. So what do? We run away or we kill the snake. So because we don't want to feel the fear, we then try and control the input variable, which is the snake. Okay, so we try and kill the snake or we run away. This can be insecurity, it could be loneliness, it could be sadness, it could be any number of reasons and things that we don't want to feel. And because of that, we become, especially with anxiety, we can become extremely controlling. And then we will try and control what we cannot control. What we don't do is change our belief. We don't even question our thinking around this process. And that's what I'm here to do today, to help us become more psychologically flexible, which is extremely important, psychologically and emotionally flexible. Some people like the word emotional agility or cognitive agility. But just bear this in mind, there is a D and an E, which we have to start learning to dispute this, but we keep getting caught in this trap of ABC, ABC, ABC. This lady, Pema Chodron, is a Buddhist, Western Buddhist monk. I think she lives in the States. She says, we can try to control the uncontrollable by looking for security and predictability, always hoping to be comfortable and safe. But the truth is we can never avoid uncertainty and fear. So the central question is not how we avoid uncertainty and fear, but how we relate to discomfort. For many of us, we simply do not want any discomfort in our lives. We are not prepared to experience any sadness or unhappiness or dismay or despair. And my question is, why not? To live this life, it's almost impossible not to have discomfort in our lives. And it's extremely important to allow it in, and with all the pain and discomfort it causes. Then I ask this question, have we become human hamsters on a mental treadmill? So because we've all gone to sleep, we just end up in this space of going through the motions, waking up every day, going to work, going back to sleep, eating, working, eating, sleeping, working, eating, sleeping. So we become human hamsters on a mental treadmill. These guys on these gears can't even see where they're going. They're just stepping and just rolling through the landscape, ambling mindlessly through their landscape. And most people also end up in this space. I don't know where I'm going. I feel stuck. It's because they haven't got a set of value systems. They don't know where they want to go. They've never even thought about where they want to be and what would make them happy. So they just carry on walking aimlessly around. Then we have this slide which speaks to bouncers and doormen. And I ask, what would happen without these? Without a bouncer in a club? Without a doorman to control who comes in and out? So there'd be fights. There'd be people coming in that shouldn't be in the buildings. We'd have, at least at some level of control. But I challenge you and ask you, are there any doormen at your mental party? Are there people, doormen, are you watching what's going on inside your mind? Are you checking in with what are you thinking about? When I ask people how often do they sit and think, they often say to me, Greg, I think all the time. And I say, really? What do you think about? No, I think about yesterday and tomorrow, and I worry and I do this. That's not what I'm talking about. That's worry. The minute we are thinking about the past and the future, we are not thinking about what we're thinking about. Thinking about what we're thinking about is checking in with yourself and saying, where's my head right now? What am I thinking about right now? And going, well, I think I should either accept what I'm thinking about and move on to something else, but I shouldn't be dwelling on it. So the question is, if there's doorman at your mental party, your mindset will be in a lot clearer, a lot cleaner. Then I'll speak about autopilot. On an aeroplane, when the plane goes on autopilot, the pilot is not driving the aeroplane. The pilot goes to the loo, he goes and chats to the passengers, makes himself a cup of coffee, but no one's flying the aeroplane. So many of us spend our lives on autopilot. Autopilot is like that guy on that wheel that was just treading like a hamster on a wheel, going round and round and neither going forward or backwards and just wandering aimlessly. Autopilot means someone else is in control of me and I have no control over my body and my mind and my thoughts and feelings. So being on autopilot, mindlessness, we become mindless, just going through the motions. We develop this herd mentality. We follow people. We don't question. We don't have a critical mind. We don't have critical thinking. We just follow. And our leaders, certainly with this COVID virus, are as blind as we are. It's new for everyone. So knowledge is only starting to come out based on the COVID, but everyone is pretty blind. And if you're not critical, we just accept it. And I think this is why right in the beginning, 1 minute they were saying you can exercise and walk your dogs, and then the next guy saying, no, you can't exercise and walk your dogs. You can have alcohol, no, you can't have alcohol. You can have cigarettes, no, you can't have cigarettes. So people are making it up as they go along. And this is this kind of herd mentality we have. And then I talk about the zombie apocalypse. In the zombie apocalypse, when we're on autopilot, zombies pretty much, all they want to do is eat and move forward. They don't know anything about turn right, turn left, how to get over an obstacle, how to get around an obstacle. They're just moving like a zombie. And again, I challenge you to ask if your life is in a zombie-like state where you're just moving forward and you've got no idea which direction you're going in because you're not even thinking. It's just about the next food, the next meal, what's happening, and just going through the motions. And we don't want to be like that. We don't need to be like this. We don't need to be on autopilot. We need to get back behind the wheel. So then, second last slide for today is, what is it going to take for us to evolve? What is it going to take for us to move out of the water of our minds? I think it's extremely important. And I think there's one slide after this and before I break for today's session. And just to ask, what is it going to take for us to evolve? And you need to go away and think about this. What is it going to take for me to evolve? What do I need to change? And I want to leave you with this slide, which I discovered this saying in my early 20s. I'm close to 50, over 50, somewhere around there, 50 something. The hammer shatters glass, yet forges steel. The hammer shatters glass, yet forges steel. What does this mean? I often say to people, it can mean a number of things, and it can mean a different thing to different people. And I ask them, so the hammer represents life. The hammer can be something like COVID. The hammer can be the lockdown. The hammer can be our partners, our marriages, our relationships, our jobs, our colleagues, people in our life that frustrate us. This is what the hammer represents. So the hammer represents the stressor. We then can respond to that stressor like glass or like steel. And when often I say to people, what is the difference between glass or steel? Why does glass shatter? Why does glass break? People often say, oh, it's brittle or it's weak. And I said, that's not why it breaks. And then we'll process it. And people struggle to come up, or they might try the chemical composition of glass versus steel. And it's a simple answer as to why glass breaks and steel doesn't. Glass breaks because it's rigid. It's inflexible. Okay, glass does not bend. The minute you smash it, it is going to shatter. It doesn't matter how thick the glass is. You could have a thick piece of glass, you could have a thin piece of metal, and the glass is going to shatter when it gets hit because there's no bend in it. The metal, on the other hand, is malleable and it bends. So metal can be bent and shaped and forged into something stronger. So you have to ask yourself, how am I going to be able to become more flexible in my life? Because the rigidity is what's causing a whole lot of problems for you. So in some of my future talks, I'm definitely going to be addressing flexibility. I'm going to be addressing ways. Certainly, we'll first look at some 6 key areas as to why we become psychologically inflexible, and then look at 6 ways to become more psychologically flexible in the ongoing talks, if this one's been successful. So feel free to drop me some notes. I don't think we're going to go into Q&A now, but I'm going to end on this slide. And this slide's about cleaning your brain. Giving your brain a scrub. And I've got this, again, it's another phrase that pops into my head. I have a number of these phrases that I use, and I've used myself, so I know they work. And it's about every day, give your brain a shampoo. Every day, when you're showering, when you're washing your hair, give your brain a shampoo. And visualization's a wonderful medium. You literally just scrub while you're washing your hair. Just imagine that you're taking your fingers and you're rinsing out your brain. I've even said to some people, you can use visualization. It's all in your imagination, but it's amazing what an effect your imagination can have on the real world, because your body doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. If you want to, while you're showering, take your brain out, hold it under the shower, or if you're bathing, put it in the bath water, give it a good scrub, rinse it out, and stick it back in your head. And it's just a visualization, but it's extremely powerful visualization. So I want to wish you all the best. I want to wish you all the best with the lockdown. I'm going to see if this stores. I don't know if it tapes. I don't know if it has taped. I don't even know if it's been working. So please feel free to leave some comments or feedback. You can inbox me if there's some private stuff you might want to chat about. And then, and then watch out for on my Facebook page for Zoom broadcasts that I'll have. I'm going to try and use Zoom and this, and at some point have a YouTube channel. But I think Facebook seems to be, well, certainly simpler, but initially the setup was quite tough. But thank you very much. I think it's extremely important to remain open, remain in the present moment, and to remain flexible. Thank you for joining me. All the best, and have a wonderful day.